So, to begin, I want to ask how many of you identify as people who can repair things or as builders of any kind? I see a few hands, a few hands. Not a whole lot, but a few. So, but I'll say this so straight up in all honesty, I would not say that I would not be a person who would raise my hand to say that I identify as a person who builds things, can repair things. I don't think myself to be handy in any kind of way. This is my immediate response, my quick default assessment of myself. But if the people in my life were to answer this question on my behalf, many would just as immediately say, absolutely, Ian has repaired many things from aircraft equipment back in the day to relationship issues. And others might say similar things about me building stuff using instruction manuals or even impromptu team building. So, with those things in mind, I ask again, how many of you have people in your life who would consider you as a person who is a builder, one who can mend and make things of all kinds? Yeah, a lot more people. Okay, that's great. So now that we're more on the same page, we can continue our month-long exploration of repair, what it means to mend, restore, and strengthen what might feel broken in our lives and in the world. I come lightheartedly to this theme, but it draws inspiration from the story of Noah's Ark, which is a pretty heavy story. I'm not going to get into all of the details of the story, but it's one that some of us might have learned as children, perhaps in the simplified image of animals marching two by two and a flood with a rainbow at the end. But beneath that simplicity lies, I believe, a really deep metaphor for resilience, preparation, and the work of community amidst life's inevitable storms. First, I say this in a way of asking that we consider the ark as a symbol for collective action. The thesaurus equates an ark to a sanctuary, a refuge, a safe haven, a place of shelter, a retreat, a port in a storm. I don't know about you, but doesn't all of those words make you think of what you will want to feel in your church home? Yeah, a safe haven, a port in the storm when things are getting bad out there, whether it's because of the political climate or anything that's going on in your personal life. When you want to have another community that you could go to that feels like the family that you chose, right? Like the world around us. Noah's story began with a broken world, a world so mired in chaos and destruction that it seemed beyond saving. But instead of abandoning it altogether, this ark offered a way forward, not as an escape hatch, but a means of survival and renewal. So Noah, the founder of this project, was called to gather resources, build a vessel, and prepare for a great storm. But this ark wasn't this personal project, it was a sanctuary for a wide array of life, like a floating ecosystem built to weather the floods and carry life forward. What strikes me about this story was its emphasis on the preparation part, the collaboration part, and all the things that would go with that to include trust. Noah, in this way, couldn't control the storm or the broken world, but he could respond to it. And that's what I believe that we could. And in that story, Noah didn't know exactly how long the chaos would last or what the world would look like when it ended, but he trusted in his caretaker role and organizer role and gathered the animal supplies and perhaps most importantly, a willingness to act. I feel like today that metaphor of the ark invites us to reflect on how we might gather resources we need to face life's storms, not alone, but as a community. What does it look like to build an ark of compassion and love, one that can carry us through times of division, despair, and uncertainty? In our own lives, these storms can take many forms: the loss of a loved one, a fractured relationship, health crisis, the overwhelming noise of a divided world. For many of us, the recent election season has felt like a storm, one that highlights the fractures in our society and leaves us feeling uncertain about the future. In moments like these, it can be tempting to retreat, to huddle and hide, hoping that the storm will pass. And sometimes in those situations, rest and retreat are necessary, but eventually we are called to rise and engage and do the work of repairing. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said, quote, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly." This interconnectedness is both a challenge and a source of hope. It reminds us that our actions, all of them big and small, impact not just ourselves, but the larger community. And when we do come together to repair, we're not just patching holes in an arc, we are strengthening the very fabric of our shared humanity. There's this sweet poem by Nancy Schaefer called Mending. It's not the one that I just read. It's a different one that connects beautifully to this idea. And she writes, "How shall I mend you, sweet soul? With these, I think, gently, we can begin." I imagine her moving her hands this way. We can begin. We can begin and mend you with a rocking chair. Yes, and a box of sweet raisins, and perhaps a cat, and a field of lavender, and you now beginning to bloom. How shall I mend you, sweet soul? In this way, I think that we are all constantly in a state of blooming and repairing and becoming and learning and adapting, even as we carry the scars of present or past storms. Our bodies and our lives are continually unfolding. We are not building from brand new. And unlike Noah's story, our ark, this church community, is not built from scratch. It is already afloat, weathered by time, and perhaps showing some signs of wear and tear. So our task isn't one to build a new vessel, but to repair the one we have, even as we continue to sail through the storms. Repair as a spiritual practice requires, what do y'all think? From the song earlier, love and trust. It also requires humility and hope. It asks us to acknowledge that what is broken, it asks us to acknowledge what is broken without despairing, but with hope. It calls us to work with what we have, trusting that our efforts, no matter how small, are meaningful. In ways, repairing the ark mirrors the work of growing and leading ourselves towards wholeness. But what does it mean to grow while simultaneously feel broken and in the midst of a storm? So at this point, I plan to tell this story about when I was in the military and actually in the midst of a literal storm while the plane was flying and there was an emergency where I had to do a repair of that while continuing to do the job and share the experience of my mental and emotional growth in that process, because that was a single story that had all of those elements. But I felt like that wouldn't really be accessible to y'all. And another situation presented itself yesterday when I too was at the Constellations Conference with the youth, and I was presented with an opportunity of experiencing growth in real time while also feeling broken myself and knowing that we are in the midst of a collective storm. Um, and so, what that looked like is yesterday being in Athens, Georgia, in the room with 19 youth, many of them identifying as trans and non-binary. None of them, I realized at the end, realized that I was a minister with them participating in this conference. And so during this opportunity, they were engaging with me, trusting that maybe I was just a guardian that was hanging out with them. And they were inviting me into their circle and participating. And it invited me to the opportunity of showing up as just myself and not with this ministerial role since I wasn't being received in that way. After all of the events of that day, I realized that the experience of being received by you while simultaneously fulfilling my role as minister that is charged to grow and lead us towards wholeness by building these multi-generational networks of community care, while I'm doing the work of that, I am simultaneously being healed in this moment of interacting with youth and them welcoming me into their spaces. And it's healing my own wounds from childhood of being rejected and abandoned as a trans kid that didn't know that to be true for myself. But now, as I'm being welcomed by this youth, all of this is happening simultaneously. How is this relevant to you? I believe that when y'all show up to church and y'all come and y'all participate in glow meeting kinds of activities afterwards, when you participate in some people doing worship associate duties, some people doing things like greeters, sometimes just sitting next to someone and being kind, I feel like that is doing the work of repairing this community. Wow, this ship of this community that, as I look out right now, does kind of look like Noah's Ark, is actually floating in this world storm right now. Can y'all see this? I don't know because all of y'all look like I don't know if y'all really understand this analogy or feeling this like us being right now in this ark while simultaneously doing the work to mend each other. And I know that sometimes there are some people who are sitting here right now that are grieving, and just having you sit right next to them while they're doing that is healing them. And I'm saying all of this because I really, really want people, I want you all to know how important it is that you continue to just show up for each other in kindness and in love with trust, even when things feel so hard and you're like, I don't even know what this person is going to say today. Maybe it's not going to resonate with me. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but just continuing to show up, going to the meetings, giving a hand however you can. That's even what the video of how the collective saving happened. I don't know if y'all caught that. Like that was what was doing the work. That was what was saving while Stephen the universe was, stuck up there, but the actual saving was happening by the individuals in the community rescuing each other. That's how we grow and lead ourselves whole and simultaneously do the work of repair. Looking at the time. Okay. All right. So repair and growth in this way go hand in hand. But growth doesn't always mean necessarily getting bigger. Oh, okay. There was a little part that I ended in my other story of speaking to how in church communities we sometimes think that we must get bigger in order for us to really save and help each other. That's a challenge because, of course, more hands make for more saving, hand holding. I don't want to just give this narrative as if we're, having savior complex, but we do all together save each other in this way as life rafts for each other. But we don't have to think that we need to have more in order to grow. It can mean deepening our understanding, strengthening our relationships, expanding our ability to care for one another. When we think about repairing the arc of our community, we can start by asking, what do we need to grow? Perhaps it's growth in our resources, our times, our talents, our treasures. For those who don't know, soon this community will be doing its annual pledge drive, and we'll start doing the very active physical work of helping to sustain this community arc. There are tangible things, ways that we help support this community in addition to your presence and your time. Perhaps growth, perhaps it's growth in our capacity to show up as safe havens for one another. Leading ourselves towards wholeness also requires shifting our perspectives, thinking about what does it mean to grow for ourselves when we feel broken or overwhelmed, trying to focus on what we can control, growing in growing emotionally, spiritually, mentally, continuing to commit to the work of repair even when the storms feel relentless. As I as I prepare to close, I want to say that it's love and truth that gives us strength to keep trying, to face life storms with the courage and compassion that we need to grow and lead ourselves home. Let us be inspired by the resilience of those who have faced storms before us. Let us commit to the work of repair, not as a burden, but as a joyful act of love and hope. May we build the ark of compassion and courage, one that carries us through storms and into a future where all are held in the embrace of wholeness. As mentioned earlier, after today's service, I invite you to join us for our Glow meeting, a chance to practice growing and leading ourselves towards wholeness. Together, we can continue our work of repair, building bridges and strengthening our art of community.